I hope you have all listened to the read aloud of me reading it to you, or that you have spent some time reading the novel by yourself. I am going to start by going through questions 1 and 2 with you, just to make sure you have a good idea of what the expectation is, and then you will have some time to work on these questions independently. So, question number 1, and these are from chapters 1 and 2 of Raven's Flight. It asks, why did Marcy move to Vancouver? So in this response, I want you just to briefly touch on why she decided to move to Vancouver. What did she think Vancouver would offer her that her small town or village living was not offering her? It doesn't need to be a very long response, but do explain one of her reasons on why she decided she wanted to try the big city life. Number 2, why was Raven at the deserted campground? So right near the beginning of the novel, Raven goes to this campground. What is she doing there? I'll give you a hint. She was picking something. What was she picking? Why is that the place that she ended up being at? Just briefly explain that one. Number 3, what did Raven see on her way home? So when she was at the campground picking what she was picking, which you need to respond to in question 2, what did she see? So she encountered something that was quite upsetting to her. What did she see? And just comment on that. Number 4, what had Raven's mother taught her about the traditional ways? Explain. So if you are thinking about First Nations culture, there is a lot of heritage, traditional values, and practices that the First Nations people do participate in. So for this question, I just want you to touch on what Raven's mother did tell her about the traditional teachings of their own culture, and why they were so important. Number 5, why did Raven go to Vancouver? So as we know, Marcy, her sister, went to Vancouver. Now I want you to comment on why Raven has gone to Vancouver and explain. Number 6, what attracted Marcy to Vancouver? So as we know, Marcy has gone to Vancouver to experience the big city life. So in the first few chapters, it does touch on what she felt she would find while being in Vancouver. So what attracted her to the big city life? There's several things mentioned in the novel, so you can write those down and then maybe give a brief explanation on why she was so excited to have those things part of her new life. Number 7, what do we know so far about Raven's home and home life? So Raven grew up in a very tiny village. They don't have a lot, meaning they don't have a lot of money. Their parents do the very best they can with what they have. Mom is a stay-at-home mom right now because she has younger children besides Raven and Marcy. But there's some specific things that have to do with the First Nations culture that her parents are really set on, that are really important to them. So I want you to comment on those. Number 8, what did Raven experience walking down the streets of Vancouver on her first night there? So going into a big city life, especially Vancouver, Raven was extremely naive. She did not expect all of things that she would experience and see on her very first night, and actually her entire time there. But there are some very specific things that definitely kind of shook her and definitely gave her a wake-up call that first night she was there. So just list as many as you can. There's many different scenarios and examples that are listed in the first few chapters. So just give a few, but you're free obviously to write them all down as well. Question number 9, it asks, who is Rita? Explain what you think her job possibly is. So Rita has a special relationship to Raven and Raven's family and Marcy. So I want you to comment on what that relationship is. And then I also want you to mention what do you think her job is. So there are many, many different clues, in fact, in the first 2 chapters. I will give you a hint. Her job is something obviously to do with the streets of Vancouver. It is a very risky, very high risk job. If you're not sure, go back into the text because it does definitely give some very evident hints about what her possible job could be. And number 10, Raven reads Marcy's diary in the second chapter. What does she learn about Marcy while she is reading her diary? Where would you start looking for Marcy? So the first part of this question wants you to briefly touch on what are some of the things that Raven is reading about in regards to what has been happening and going on with Marcy while living in Vancouver. And then the next part of this is just a personal response question where we just want you to comment on if you were in Raven's position, where might you start looking for Marcy first? So based on her journal entries, her diary entries, there is a few hints that would maybe give us a few clues on where we could start looking. But for that one, it is a very wide open personal question. Where would you start looking? As long as it has some relation to the text and the context of what we are reading about and where the story takes place, you will get marks for that.